It's Wednesday night.
The New York Theater Barn
is live!
I see color for the first time. Finally, I can feel the sunshine. My heart's singing for the first time. Baby, is this love? I see color for the first time. Finally, I can feel the sunshine. My heart's singing for the first time. Is this love?
Good evening and welcome to New York Theater Barn's New Work Series Live. I'm Joe Barros and I'm the Artistic Director.
And I am Jen Sandler, and I am the Associate Artistic Director. Tonight, we are excited to present excerpts from the new musicals Hart Island and Cowboy Bob.
That's right. Hart Island is the inspiring and emotional tale of an immigrant woman fighting for her child and the unexpected compassion of a disillusioned inmate whose lives converge at NYC's public burial ground. Hart Island is written by Michelle Elliott and Danny Haengil Larsen, and Cowboy Bob, loosely inspired by the untold true story of Peggy Jo Tallis, the slickest bank robber Texas has ever known, is written and created by Gina Phillips, Molly Beach Murphy, Alex Thrailkill, and Annie Tipp.
Wow, wow, wow. We are really in for a crazy night. So welcome to the 43rd, Joe. That is cray. 43rd installment of our award-winning virtual New Work series. In March, we marked a year since our New Work series first became virtual, and we are so proud to be bringing you new musical development during this unprecedented time. For the past tumultuous year, we have presented 88 new musicals, lifted up the work of 164 writers, and have served over 500 artists. We really never get tired of saying that, and it is such an honor to say the least.
Wow, we did it, Jen.
You did it, Joe. And as always, tonight's broadcast is being simulcast to Broadway On Demand, and we love our friends at Broadway On Demand and thank them for their partnership. So next Wednesday night, May 19th at 7 p.m., our choreography lab returns for another sure-to-be historic hybrid installment. We will again be streaming live from Broadway Dance Center, but this time the dance will take to the streets of Manhattan and is sure not to be missed.
That's right. I couldn't be more excited. The lab will explore 3 musical moments from Avi Aman, Ty Defoe, and Nolan Duran's The Lesson, which is about a fantastical reimagining of a chance encounter between a revolutionary Beethoven and a more established Mozart. The show was featured in our New Work series this past February.
Yeah, and we have not stopped thinking about it since, so we're so glad to see it again. The lab will feature new choreography from Tiger Brown, Kathy Liu, and Maite Natalio, and they will be mentored by some of the best: Dennis Jones, Joanne M. Hunter, and Lauren Latero.
We can't wait to see you then, and we're so proud that we can team up again with Full Out Creative to continue to evolve our choreography lab. And now, here to tell us more about how you can support New York Theater Barn is Full Out Creative's co-founder, Kyle Beckley.
Hi, I'm Kyle Beckley, and I'm coming to you from my home in Ossining, New York. I am the co-founder and producer of Full Out Creative, a full-service video and production company that operates at the intersection of art and technology. We're a small company with big heart, and we pride ourselves on focusing on the individual artists and small to mid-sized arts companies and organizations. In 2020, we joined forces with New York Theater Barn to help produce their historic hybrid choreography lab. With safety on our side, it was amazing to see so many dancers in a real space again, and we cannot wait to do it again for next week's Spring Lab. Working with Joe, Jen, Ivey, and the entire New York Theater Barn team has been an exceptionally rewarding experience, and I am proud to be part of a creative home that makes space not only for all artists, but new groundbreaking musicals during incubation. The New York Theater Barn family is excited about tonight's original culture-shifting musicals, Hart Island and Cowboy Bob. The company is proud to lift up the work of Michelle Elliott, Danny Haengil Larsen, Molly Beach Murphy, Gina Phillips, Annie Tipp, and Alex Threlkill. New York Theater Barn is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and your gift tonight is tax deductible. Thank you for supporting live theater and the development of original musicals. Enjoy the show.
Thank you, Kyle. NYTB is lucky to have your genius and support as we continue to grow during this crazy, crazy time.
That's right. Tonight, making a gift tonight is easy and fun. Tonight, you can quickly donate by text at any point during the presentation or even when it's over.
Yeah, and the number to give is 631-710-NYTB, 631-710-6982. And like he said, you could do it now, later, whenever you want.
Our recent Newark series featured the new musicals, She Reached for Heaven and Co-Founders. Here's a clip from our presentation of Hunter Bird and Oliver Hauser's She Reached for Heaven. Take a look.
So I smile and I go through the motions I'm supposed to. And I wonder what's wrong that I can't do like they do. Someone save me from this nightmare. Tell me that I'm not the only one. Something in me keeps on screaming. I need to know that there is something more.
Hunter showed me an article on an airplane in 2018 about the opioid epidemic. And I was so taken by the impact it's had on so many people, more likely to die from an opioid overdose than a car accident in our country, way more likely actually. I am really interested in the topic of addiction, and I'm really interested in that choice we have of like, do I want to embrace the totality of the human experience, which is both beautiful and tragic and painful, and like you can't have one without the other.
She reached for heaven and I'm on my shift. And I get a call, someone's gone too far, someone's had too much, and I race downtown and she's lying there. And the girl I knew with her bright blue eyes and her dark brown curls, my sister, had passed on.
So I got really excited about telling this story about a woman who basically has the choice of choosing life rather than escaping it.
So that relationship that she has with the drug is personified, and in a relationship that she's investing in, like any other relationship in her life. The opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection.
I'm hoping that this show can be something that encourages all of us to choose life in all of its messiness and beauty.
Our hope is this can be a show that can both show how addiction happens and also how the pathway to healing can begin from all of us as a community.
Let me fall through your sky and tell me you'll be there. I could fall apart tonight if I could know you care. Hold me close till morning light and say you've heard my prayer. I need someone to catch me.
Choose life. I think that's the thing that stuck with me with that show, and I'm so glad we heard it again. It's so important.
Yeah, I love that the message is really connection.
Absolutely. Well, now here is something way different. Here's a clip from last week's Co-Founders by Adisha Idafala, Ryan Nicole Austin, and Bo Lewis. Take a look.
Oh, wait. Hold up. You think they know the history?
Nah. All good though. We're gonna put them up on game real quick.
Silicon Valley to Vallejo. Started from the bottom of the Dale.
I joined the team last, actually. It was because it was a story about the Bay Area, and it was a story about Oakland. And if I don't bleed anything else. I bleed Oakland. The show is all about challenging assumptions.
One thing that plays a key role in our play is what we call fate, as opposed to algorithms. And so, one thing that I believe is that the universe brought us together to tell this story for such a time as this. For me, what drew me to the story, as you said earlier, Joe, all of us are entrepreneurs.
All I would add is, if Adisha is, comes from the lineages of musical theater royalty from, San Francisco and the Bay, and Ryan leads Oakland, I'm the white kid across the bridge in Silicon Valley.
I am the 1%, my daddy told me. I am the one who will build my own legacy. I am afraid, but I won't let that stop me. I'll hold up my head and dive in.
I am the 1%, my daddy told me. I am the one who will hold up his legacy. I am afraid, but I won't let that stop me. I'll close my eyes and dive in.
Will they accept me? Or will they reject me? Will they accept me for who I am?
Everybody out in Oakland, they were selling tapes out of the trunks in Oakland when Steve Jobs and Wozniak were selling computers out of garages in Silicon Valley. And so both those things are entrepreneurship. It's all a hustle. And we wanted to tell a story of what these dreams have in common, how they're different, and how they can help each other.
Well, my personal primary goal and mission is to, get audiences that are 50% traditional and 50% non-traditional, and both of them sitting in a room and enjoying themselves and rubbing shoulders with new folks that they wouldn't have sat in a space with.
Silicon Valley to Vallejo. Started from the bottom of the Bayo. You heard of Josh, heard of Wise, heard of Zuck. Those were the garages. This is the crime. If you want to make it here, you need to make your own alley.
Gina Phillips and Alex Thrailkill were jamming to that backstage.
I mean, what a show to jam to. Come on.
Totally. Well, we wanted to take a moment to lift up the extraordinary work of our friends at the National Alliance for Musical Theater. Both of tonight's shows were featured in NAMP's 2020 Festival of New Musicals, along with co-founders, and Eastbound, a show we developed with Musical Theater Factory.
Yes, over the past year, NAMT has continued to guide and champion theaters all around the world. And in the midst of the intermission of live theater, NAMT did not rest, and we are proud to be in their corner. And now here is a special message from NAMT's Executive Director, Betsy King-Militello.
Hi, I'm Betsy King-Militello, Executive Director of the National Alliance for Musical Theater, also known as NAMT. I'm delighted to welcome you to tonight's New York Theater Barn New Work Series presentations. New York Theater Barn has been doing an amazing job of keeping the New Works development field moving forward at a time it could so easily stagnate. Thank you, Joe, Jen, and everyone at New York Theater Barn. New York Theater Barn is also a member of NAMT. Let me take a quick moment to give you a thumbnail sketch of who we are. We're the only national organization dedicated to the musical theater community. Our mission? To be a catalyst for nurturing musical theater development, production, innovation, and collaboration. We have a portfolio of programs in two primary areas, New Works and educational resources. I could tell you lots about the latter, but I know my audience. Let's focus on New Works tonight, and particularly on the annual Festival of New Musicals. Tonight you'll meet two writing teams who were featured in our 32nd annual Festival of New Musicals, our reimagined online 2020 festival. Each fall, the festival features 8 new musicals and the extraordinary writing teams behind them to an audience of NAMT members and other leaders in the field. While the event in itself is an exciting one, we really view it as a starting point, as a way to launch these writers and their shows onto their future development paths. New York Theater Barn is providing one of those next steps tonight. Lots of shows presented at the festival have gone on to wonderful future lives in regional theaters and on Broadway. We just heard that Noir from our 2015 festival will have its world premiere at the Alley Theater in Houston this upcoming season. Gun and Powder from 2018 had its world premiere at Signature Theater in Virginia right before the pandemic hit. And Come From Away from 2013 continues to have a wonderful life. Come From Away has actually had a pretty amazing NAMP life. Its story, its journey has led it through many NAMP members, led by commercial producers who are also NAMP members and discovered the show at the 2013 festival. The last thing I'll say is that NAMP is a proud supporter of this new work series through a grant from our Innovation and Exploration Fund. And New York Theater Barn has also received grants for several projects through our Frank Young Fund for New Musicals. We're delighted to be here. Enough about us for now. On with tonight's presentations.
Enough about you. We can't stop hearing about NAMT.
That's right. Thank you, Betsy and the NAMP team, for continually inspiring us. Now let's get started. Our first show tonight is Cowboy Bob, which was created by Molly Beach Murphy, Gina Phillips, and Annie Tipp. The show has music and lyrics by Gina Phillips, book and additional lyrics by Molly Beach Murphy, additional music by Alex Thrailkill, and direction by Annie Tipp. You wouldn't look twice at Peggy Jo. She was a good daughter, always tipped at restaurants, but disguised as Cowboy Bob in a fake beard and a 10-gallon hat, she was the slickest bank robber Texas has ever known. Making her getaway in a sky blue 1975 Pontiac Grand Prix, she was a modern-day bandit, stealing thousands and evading detection for more than a decade. With a score that's equal parts Riot Girl and Texas two-step twang, this tale of a small-town legend spurs a discontented chain restaurant waitress to buck routine, take life by the reins, and let it ride.
Wow, wow, wow. And now joining us from their homes in New York are the writers and creators of Cowboy Bob. We have Molly Beach Murphy, we have Gina Phillips, we have Alex Thrailkill, and we have Annie Tipp. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
We're so glad that you could all be here. Molly, your work has been developed with the Alley Theater, Page 73, New York Stage and Film, the Drama League, New Georgia's Pipeline Theater Company, and Williamstown Theater Festival. And your plays include The Air Got Thick, Ike, and Big Ben in the Red Dirt Desert. Gina, your original work is What's This Called? The Spirit? Cooking to Me is Poetry, and Poe. Your work has been developed with Ars Nova, Dixon Place, Galapagos Art Space, and the Morgan Library. And your alter ego, Andrea Lloyd Webber, wreaks havoc regularly across the tri-state area. And your children's music project, Little Bandits, released a self-titled album not too long ago. Alex, your work has been developed with Village Theater, New York Stage and Film, Yale Institute for Music Theater, Ars Nova, and Spring Street Social Society. You're also the co-founder of Little Bandits. Annie, you are the director of Ghost Quartet, Leslie Headland's Cult of Love, Bess Wohl's Continuity, James and Jerome's Inc., James and Jerome's The Conversationalists, and Dave Malloy's Octet, of which you won the 2020 Lucille Lortel Award for Best Direction. Congratulations. And you're in great company because another award also went to Kuhu Verma, Best Featured Actress, and the show won for Best Musical. Your collaborative team of Molly, Gina, and Annie was formed in 2016, united by a desire to make music theater that carves out space for more dynamic female identifying characters and explodes the possibility of the genre at large. As we mentioned, we saw your presentation at NAMP last fall, and we were excited by the beautiful work that you're doing. NAMP's festival committee said that they were compelled to select the show for the festival for this reason, quote, "We were sucked in by Cowboy Bob, a witty musical that empowers and encourages women to take back their power even in difficult times. This story, reminiscent of Thelma and Louise, left the committee members over the moon, laughing, intrigued, and touched," end quote. So Molly, Gina, Alex, and Annie, your show takes life by the reins and lets it ride, as you say. What was the impetus for your collaboration, and what drew you to excavate this female-focused, untold story while finding your own way into it?
I love that. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for those introductions. After a year of not working, we're all thrilled to have our bios read to us. It's a pleasure. Well, so I can say that I met Molly back in 2016, I believe, or maybe it was 2015 now. I had gone to school with Gina and Alex, and I had a directing residency at Ars Nova. And they very generously were like, do whatever you like. We'll give you 3 days if you want to put something up. And it was kismet to have met Molly around that same time and find, like, within a day of meeting her, my ultimate collaborator. And Gina is someone who I had seen perform many times and have heard her music as well as Alex's. But this was the first opportunity that I thought, okay, what if we all came together and tried something, even though none of us felt like we could claim traditional musical theater creator. But here we are, and now we can say that. And I think Molly could speak a little bit about Peggy Jo Tallis and Cowboy Bob and the story of how we found her.
Sure. Yeah. So Peggy Jo Tallis was a real person, and we learned about her kind of like through news clips. She robbed banks for, I think, 20 years, and she died, I think, in 2005, and was just really bowled over by the story of her. You know, she's robbing banks to pay her mother's medical bills. You know, it's sort of this big Texan myth example of how increasingly hard it is to carve out a dignified life for oneself in this country. You know, I feel like many, but we knew that we didn't want to make a biography of her because she's so unknowable. She is kind of like a myth to us, to the world, because she died. And so we started spinning out, creating this world of fictional people who knew her in fictional situations and how she affected their lives. In particular, a character of a waitress who waited on Peggy Jo at a fictional Chili's regularly. And she learns that Peggy Jo is this bank robber, and it really changes her life and allows her to get out of a very crappy situation she's in. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Okay.
You said it all.
And I think that was something at NAMT we didn't know that because they're not even in the same time period, the girl and Peggy, right?
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like, I think it's something we share with Hart Island, actually, is that it's about people colliding and when things collide, they explode, right? And sort of what the fallout is from all that.
Right. Yeah. And I know that was something in NAMT we didn't know well enough. And when we found that out, we were like, it exploded about how it's just an amazing concept.
Yeah, we came to think of Peggy Jo as a new American tall tale. And we're kind of delighted to imagine how her story might capture other people the way it captured us, but in different and surprising ways.
Well, I think you wanted to find the humanization in Peggy as well, that she wasn't just someone that robbed. She had a reason, she had a family, she had things to care about.
Right. As sort of a example of, it's hard to get by in America for many, many, many people to different degrees, of course. But we loved this example of anyone. Sometimes you have to fight for your life to save it,
Mm. And sometimes that fight takes surprising forms.
Yeah. Awesome. Can you speak a little bit to how the score transcends time and space and how it transports audiences?
I would love to speak to that, Joe. I was thinking about this a little bit in advance of this conversation, and I was thinking of Alex and I have been on a huge country music jag lately. Strangely, we've just been listening our way through Hank Williams and Patsy Cline and Johnny Cash and kind of going back to the classics. And it occurred to me that the musical that we wrote is not a country western musical, but the music that kind of came up is a tapestry of different genres inspired by the music that maybe Peggy Jo's mother was listening to, or Peggy Jo was listening to as a kid, the big echoey girl bands, inspired by, what Peggy Jo might have heard when she walked into a bar that may or may not have been a honky-tonk bar in Texas. And then ultimately, I think like for Alex and myself, as a sort of, I identify more as a pop music writer, and the source of pop music is pleasure. And I think what we made, I hope, is music that feels good viscerally to listen to, and also music that is both very intimate and takes up space in the way that these women really long to. Alex, I didn't leave a lot of room for you in that response, but
no, I think you did. I think you did great. One thing that I would say is I think one of the keys to the genre and the genres that the music plays with in this show is a kind of transcendence, because I think, Gina, you're exactly right. It is not a straight ahead country musical, and I think that in a lot of the music, I think a lot of what we've tried to do is to land in surprising sonic spaces and surprising genres that I think for each song, and hopefully in those songs that we hear tonight, sort of shows something new about the person who's singing it and the experience that they're having.
yes.
Absolutely. So you finish.
No, I just want to say this is also, I think, one of the moments where we get to shout out the band. Many of the musicians have been working on the show with us for years now, for many iterations. And Eric Farber's drum arrangements are alive in this music. And, you know, these musicians have been so generous in their sort of sensibilities and their musicianship. And that's really shaped the sound, which is, you know, was written by me and Molly and Annie and Alex, and also by a bunch of people vibing out on the stage at New York Stage and Film.
Well, that's how you discovered your show. And Alex, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, in addition to hearing Eric Farber on the drums, we're also going to hear Debbie Jong, who's playing bass, and we're going to hear Ada Westfall, who's playing some incredible guitar.
Yeah.
Debbie and Nate, I see them all the time.
Yes. So tell us more about your development. You know, you last were at NAMT, but how did you get to NAMT?
Well, Gina, you want to go?
No, I just talked a lot. It's your turn.
Okay. I'll just go in a circle, which is the theme of our circles. We have developed this for a few years, and we started at New York Theater Workshop. We have gone through the Yale Musical Theater program. We have gone through the University of the Arts program that they have for new musicals. And I think all along the way, we've just been trying to figure out, all right, what is the essence of the show we're trying to tell? Who are these people? And every step has led us a little closer in terms of the writing and in terms of the music. And the way that Molly, Gina, and I started this piece is not unlike writing a sketch show, and that we started very much by saying, all right, what delights us and excites us? Everyone write. There are no boundaries between us. Yes, I am the director of this piece, Molly, the writer, Gina, the composer, Alex contributing additional music, but we all have a say in what this is, and we take really seriously the just the like delight of boundaryless creation. So I think we've had a really beautiful development period, and I love the way we work, and Cowboy Bob is the way that we have been able to hone that as a team. And now, you know, we're working on our next musical. We have ideas for the next few, and it just feels like Cowboy Bob was the show that helped us kind of, you know, crack how we like to work together.
Mm. And this show was at Ars Nova, and then where did it go from Ars Nova, just to talk about the places that have hosted
I know.
Yeah, but I loved hearing that as well. I think it's really important to know how you work together and why you want to work together.
Yeah, I did it out of order. We started at Ars Nova.
Yeah. And then Yale, right?
And then to Yale Institute of Music Theater, and then to the University of the Arts Polyphone Festival, and then to New York Stage and Film. And then we were at the Village Theater in Seattle. We did a workshop there. And I think that leads us to NAMT.
And a couple
of
54
Below concert as well.
Yeah.
all sorts of writing and ripping up writing and all along the way, you know.
Awesome. And the Hart Island writers have been at the Village many times as well, which is another connection you both have. And in addition to tonight's performers, also Tony nominee Barbara Walsh has been a part of your developmental period. So with that said, we'd love to know more about tonight's first song, Canyons.
Gina, you want to intro us?
Sure. So Canyons is a song that's from Rena, this sort of discontented Chili's waitress who has this strong sense that there's more to life than what she's experiencing. She's not quite sure what it is, but Canyons finds her in the moment where she kind of dares to imagine breaking the cycle that she's stuck inside of. And we also see her kind of imagining Peggy Jo as sort of a specter looming over that possibility.
And Ashley Perez Flanagan will be singing tonight, who has been involved in your development from the beginning, or not the beginning, but very, very recent parts of your development.
A queen.
So here is Canyons.
I find it very, very easy to be good. I wake up early so that I can do the things I know I should. I write them down when they're complete. I draw a line. I walk the line that's been a circle this whole time. I find it very, very easy to be good. I find it very, very easy to be true. The other thing I found, if you play by the rules and they play you, I'll read your name. I wonder if you thought that too. And do I dare to walk a line that might just lead me out to you? I find it very, very easy to be true. In my dreams, I'm walking in circles. When I wake, I walk in circles. In my dreams, I'm walking in circles. When I wake, I walk in circles. I find it very easy just to pass the time. The other thing I found, if you just pass the time, it passes by. I watch the clock, I feel the hours run through my hands. Meanwhile, a voice inside is calling to a vast expanse. In my dreams, I'm walking in circles. When I wake, I walk in circles. In my dreams, I'm walking in circles. What's the center
So great. Stage management called the wind cues at just the right time.
Mm-hmm. And the song is just so relatable because everyone has that moment where they think there's someone else or somewhere else doing something that they wish they were doing. And then they're at their house wishing and it's not happening for them, but they wanted to.
Yeah.
My whole life, yes.
This past year.
Yeah.
Just at my house, yeah.
Absolutely. So what is our second song tonight?
Molly, do you want to throw this one?
Sure. So Mexico is a beautiful song that takes place maybe 2/3 of the way through the show. Rena has pulled off a scheme by the hair of her chin. I don't even say.
Absolutely.
The skin of her teeth. That's it. That's the saying. And she is getting out, and she is going to escape her life and go down to Mexico, which is where she knew that her hero Peggy Jo was going when she was making her escape. So at this point in the show is the first time our protagonists really enter at the same kind of time and space. They're in different times, but we have them together at the same space at the time that they are both headed down to Mexico at very different parts of their journey, feeling very different things. Annie, did I leave anything out?
No, you nailed it.
The performers are Ashley Perez-Flanagan again, who plays Rena, and our friend and deep genius Grace McLean, who is playing Peggy Jo.
So here,
our idol.
I agree, idol. So here is Mexico.
Wake up at the crack of dawn, put the kettle on. In the parking lot, you made it out alive. House keys in an envelope, you're already gone. Car door slammed shut behind. Take a breath and put the car on drive, leaving for the last time. Take a breath and put the car in drive, leaving for the last time. I'd like to know, where's the curve of the earth and where does it go? Is the ground out there just the same as the ground I know? I'd like to know, is the curve of my life just the echo of the desert plains? 'Cause when the phoenix rises again, it's a bird all the same. Turn the radio on, it's a sentimental song. I walked out on the streets of Laredo, Route 35, small towns, roll the windows down till the border, finally you hit Laredo. Perhaps for the first time, I'm also very alive. You see the Texas First Bank of Laredo, maybe one last time, just to feel alive. The of the water, young and fresh baptized. Within sight of the high plateau, can I leave my life behind and let the outlaw go? But I know, if these dreams last forever, then I'll get something back. These dreams are my tether, and I feel them pull me back. I know what I am, I know what I've become. A cowboy ain't finished till he knows he's done.
What else is there to say? But wow.
Yeah, it's nice to revisit that. I haven't watched it in a while.
We've seen a lot of Zoom acting in 2020 and 2021, and I have to say that's some of my very favorite. Those performers just absolutely makes my heart full.
Absolutely. And the Commons, they feel it too. Wow, wow, wow. So I think before we leave, we just want to talk about again, we said before the show is uniquely set in 2 different time periods, but these women could meet tomorrow and have so much in common. And we need to keep seeing more women's stories that are so centric and so important like this. And why should we keep seeing daring and exciting and adventurous stories like this? Why do we need them in the musical theater canon?
Because they're fun.
Yeah, I think people are desperate to see themselves on stage. They're desperate to see not only fantastical characters and characters who can help us live up in the clouds, but also people that we can relate to, and people who are, either fighting similar struggles that we are, or who can illuminate the struggles that we don't understand.
Yeah, and I talk a lot about the show with dignity, but I feel like there are so many people's stories who are not given dignity, and there's so much dignity in American life that we need to, and I don't mean like important with a capital I, there's lots of like dumb comedy in this show, but it's about people. We think the canon should be filled with stories of people you may not encounter every day, and be filled with like the deep complexities and dignities of all kinds of American life.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we all deserve to have a musical written about us. And we hope we've done that for Peggy and for all the people who populate our world.
Well, what's so amazing is I've never seen a show like yours, but it's so inherently musical. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We can't wait to see more from Cowboy Bob.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nams. Thank you, everyone.
Honor.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Well, now for something completely different, but equally as rich, dynamic, and wow, I have never seen anything in a musical like this before. So now it's time to move on to our next show, Hart Island.
That's a great way to describe it. Hart Island has a book by Michelle Elliott, music and additional lyrics by Michelle Elliott, and Danny Haengil Larsen, and music by Danny Haengil Larsen.
You actually said that Michelle did some of the music too, so that's worth saying again, and she did it. So let's just go.
Didn't.
So you know what? And now it's time to move on to our next show, Hart Island.
Which has a book by Michelle Elliott and additional lyrics by Michelle and Danny Haengil Larsen and music by Danny Haengil Larsen. That is right now. Michelle does not write music. Just off the shore of New York City lies a sorrowful island that serves as a public burial ground for the lonely, forgotten, or impoverished of the city. Hart Island is an inspiring and emotional tale of an immigrant woman fighting for her child and the unexpected compassion of a disillusioned inmate who is the only person who can help her. The hauntingly beautiful new musical observes 2 people on the fringe of society as they change each other's lives forever.
Wow. And now joining us from their homes in Minnesota and New York City are the writers of Hart Island, Michelle Elliott and Danny Haengil Larsen.
And Michelle doesn't write music.
Why do you keep saying that? Maybe I could write a song someday.
I was actually going to say, like, Michelle and I have been working together for almost 20 years, and we decided at the very beginning of our collaboration that we would always split everything 50-50, regardless of who wrote what. And I have to say that, like, music would not exist without Michelle's words, and so I do sort of deem her as just because that's just how collaboration works, and anyone who has collaborated would know that. So
there you go. My typo wasn't wrong, Joe.
No, right.
Well,
I honestly could not do what Danny does. That's true.
You're both so generous and kind to each other, and it's funny that you both should say this because in my script, my notes say that you've been collaborating since meeting at NYU's Graduate Musical Theater Writing Program 18 years ago, and now you're
only 22.
And now you're multi-award-winning writers, and your work is so connected, so nuanced, it's hard to see where one ends and the other begins. So I think it's very apropos that you both said that. Your first musical, The Yellow Wood, was awarded the Richard Rogers Development Award and the Daryl Roth Award. In 2007, The Yellow Wood was presented in the New York Musical Theater Festival, now renamed the New York Musical Festival, then directed by B.D. Wong. And in 2008, the show was part of Village Originals and NAMPed. Your other musicals include Maiden Voyage and Cloaked, of which I saw an incredible production, a very intimate production at Cap 21 starring Katie Thompson. You also filmed and produced The Hinterlands, a 7-part musical for teens in response to the surge of suicides by queer youth. And together, you're currently working on a new musical called Country Radio with Emily Saliers of the Indigo Girls.
Yeah.
And Danny, you're currently working on a new semi-autobiographical musical called The Pain in My Gay Mormon Half Korean Ass, which sounds awesome. And Michelle,
all of it.
And Michelle, your plays include Promising and The Midwesterners. I wanted to note that when New York Theater Barn first launched in 2007, my heart and mind exploded when I learned about your show, The Yellow Wood. The show follows 17-year-old Adam, who's frantically trying to memorize Robert Frost's poem, The Road Not Taken, to recite in his English class, but because he decides not his Ritalin, he can't go much further than the first lines diverged in the Yellow Wood before an amazing Yellow Wood begins creeping into this powerful musical. Feels even more important now than it did then, as it makes space for a neurodiverse, biracial, Asian American protagonist and explores the power of choice, intention, and identity. You made a half Korean teenager with ADD become the hero of his story. And because of you, other young people like your protagonist, Adam, will see themselves on the stage and under the bright lights.
Well, truly, I mean, I wish that was the case, Joe, but we had one really lovely production of the show in Seattle that our friend Brandon Ivey directed, but that was probably 12, maybe 15 years ago. And so unfortunately, the Yellow Wood has never gotten its sort of entrance to the world. And I'm not sure if that's because it was a show it was about a teen experience, or if it just wasn't time for it, if it was a little bit just not the right time. But we still greatly hope that someday we'll be able to share the show with people, because I think it's really special. And like you said, there are not many protagonists like Adam, who was really based on Danny's story growing up in a household where his mother was a Korean immigrant, and a lot from Danny's own experiences. We were really inspired by that.
Awesome. Well, I could talk about the Yellow Wood all night, but
you could.
Hart Island. There are over 1 million adults, children, and infants buried on Hart Island, and burials continue to this day. Conducted by inmates on Rikers Island who receive 50 cents an hour for their labor. So Danny and Michelle, what inspired you to explore the untold story of the country's most famous public burial ground as a musical?
Well, I was sitting at, I work at the Graduate Musical Theater Writing Program, and I was sitting at my desk probably 7-8 years ago. And Michelle and I would get on GChat every, probably more than we should while we're at work. But she emailed me this article. I think it was in the Huffington Post, and it was an article about Hart Island, which I had never heard of. And then when I started talking to other people around me about this location, no one in New York City that I would talk to ever had heard of it. And she said, I think we need to write a musical about this. So it was really that article, and it was just about Hart Island and what it is and the history of it. And there was this sort of reverence, yet sadness, yet peacefulness, but also this beauty. And there was also this almost like ghostly, haunted quality to it that just, but it was all about humanity and connection and people who are on the margins of society who are forgotten, that get brushed away, that we don't want to think about, so we send them to this island so that we don't have to think about them. And that is sort of, I think that kind of theme encapsulates the sort of stories that Michelle and I are very interested in telling, which is why I think it spoke to us so much.
Yeah, and we subsequently learned that the island played a big role during the AIDS epidemic in the 80s and 90s, and that the queer community knew about the island. The older queer community knew about the island more than probably the average New Yorker might have, because unfortunately it was, a lot of people who passed away from HIV, AIDS were abandoned by their families, or were not able to afford a private burial. And so it kind of became another infamous part of the AIDS epidemic in the city. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because the island has a long history. It actually has Civil War soldiers buried on the island, and it became the city's public burial ground right after the Civil War, so over 150 years ago.
And it's interesting you say that, because now I feel like there's so much renewed interest in Hart Island over the last year unfortunately, because of the pandemic and COVID-19 and the amount of deaths that have been here where people didn't have families, they were, not from this country, there's so many reasons. So I think we need to keep hearing these stories, and, why do we need to continue hearing them? Because they're important. They're the makeup of New York City almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's a place that, we lived in New York for many years before we ever learned about it. And I know people are still learning about it, and maybe somebody out there right now has never even heard of the island, but it has played a huge role in the COVID crisis. I believe right now the folks who are doing the burials are actually not the inmates that they've hired for very small wages, private crews to do the burials because of the potential spread for COVID amongst inmates. And there are, just a lot of new kinds of regulations in place. But previously, that was another thing that really fascinated us, that these two islands, Hart Island and Rikers Island, are these places where we just push people away that we don't want to have part of society, or we just don't want to think about, we don't want to know their story. They're just superfluous to our busy lives as we go, keep our heads down, move forward, plow through the crowd, get on the subway, get home, do our thing. And so we really thought about the show as the chance to tell stories about people who we normally rush past and don't think about and don't see, and highlight their lives and bring their stories to the forefront.
Well, I think that's a through line with your shows. Like I mentioned with the Yellow Wood and with Cloaked, it's really, it's about people, who are isolated, but who are yearning for connection, despite the fact that they're basically trapped. Hector actually just came over and told me that Hart Island was featured in an episode of Pose, which would make sense because of they would be burying bodies. Anyway, tell us a little bit more about the development of Hart Island. I know you began in 2017 with a stage reading at Village Originals at the Village Theater.
Yeah, before that, we were one of the inaugural writers group projects. We came into the first writers group a little bit later than the very first folks. So Musical Theater Factory really helped us write the show, and the conversations we had with the other artists. I mean, there were some just fantastic folks in that group. Anna Jacobs and Michael R. Jackson and Shakina Nafak, and just really great folks who gave us a lot of encouragement and really supported us. It was great to be part of that group, and I think honestly, if we hadn't had them, I'm not sure we would have ever really gotten it on the page.
Yeah.
So that was really critical. And then Brandon Ivey, our longtime friend and supporter at Village Theater in Issaquah, Washington, he just basically put us on the schedule for doing our show in August, even though it was like May and we hadn't really finished it. So it was sort of like, you will finish this now because it will be presented. And it was a real great inspirational method to get our show written.
We call that high risk first drafting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then we, Musical Theater Factory, we, as part of the writers group, produced a reading in, I think it was March of 2018, where we it was the second reading that we did. Both of the readings, the first one that we did at Village and then the one at Musical Theater Factory, which was sort of co-produced with the Village, featured Valerie Curtis Newton as the director. And then Village decided that they wanted to put it in their
beta series.
Yeah, the beta series, so it received a workshop production in summer of 2019, which was super pivotal, directed by Jerry Dixon. And
for those who don't know who that is, that's Daniel from the original Once on This Island.
Yeah.
Right, and he's now the artistic director at Village. He's an amazing person, and we are so indebted to him. He actually helped us with Hart Island even well before we, at the original days when we were working on it with the Musical Theater Factory. So he's been a great supporter all along.
Yeah, and then that led to the blessing of getting into NAMT, and Raja Feather Kelly came on board as director of that project.
He was amazing.
And now you're here. How about that?
Yeah.
So tell us, what is the first song we are going to hear tonight?
Well, it's actually a rehearsal recording, so just done in the rehearsal studios at Village Theater, and it features Rodney Hicks playing the role of Charles. Charles is the inmate in our story who is on the burial crew, and he's very resistant to the power of Hart Island. The other inmates all really take their work seriously and are very reverent, but Charles has heretofore been very, just kind of aloof about it, disinterested. And in this particular moment, he kind of almost takes a moment to really see the island for the first time.
And Rodney has been in your development pretty much since the beginning, right?
Well, no, the first thing he did was at Village in 2019, and then he did our NAMT presentation. He was amazing in that. But we're showing this is from the Village version.
So here is Rodney singing "It Ain't Lost on Me."
It ain't lost on me that the rich man gets to lie in a fancy mausoleum, but the poor man, he gets buried when nobody can see him. Like he's never lost or loved, never danced or drew a breath. He was invisible in life, and he's invisible in death. It ain't lost on me. It ain't lost on me that some folks wind up out here 'cause no one wants to claim them. Bet my kids won't take my body. I guess that I can't blame them. All the men who no one wants gets a simple box of pine. Oh, I wonder if there'll come a day when the box of pine is mine. It ain't lost on me. It ain't lost on me that this island ain't a beauty, mostly weeds and scrubby brush. If a rich man were buried here, it'd be manicured and lush. But still, there's something about the place. It's calm and it's serene, and it's nice to look up and see, not prison gray, but green. And God, look at that enormous tree. I climbed a tree like that when I was a kid. Probably the happiest thing I ever did. I remember being young and having hope before prison cells and the end of my rope. I remember being young. It ain't lost on me. It ain't lost on me that this island ain't so bad. Seeing all the branches swaying and the geese are flying over, and these old boys are praying. And I'm feeling something too, like a spirit in my chest. Maybe I can find some peace by laying these poor souls to rest. It ain't lost on me. It ain't lost on me.
Wow.
Wow.
Rodney should be a national treasure.
He really is.
He really should.
Really. And I think we all have a Ren story. We were saying in the chat, we all have a story about how we saw him in Ren if at some time. Me when it closed because I was too young to see him when it opened. But
So, right. I was living in New York. Well, I had just moved to, actually what happened is I was just about to move to New York for the first time. And I saw on the Tonys this show called Rent. And I was like, who? And I saw Jonathan Larsen's sister accept the award on his behalf. And she really encouraged writers. Like, if you are a writer, go out there and tell your story and do your thing. And I was like, that sounds like me. I think that might be, she might be talking to me.
That's why we have the Larsen grants now.
Yeah, right. And then I went to see the show and stayed. I laid on the sidewalk overnight to get $20 tickets. And then when I met Rodney and we were working together, I was like, guess what I used to do like every weekend when I was young. It was kind of cool. Because I mean,
and how lucky that he's the final Benny. He's on the DVD of the final performance. What an amazing person.
He's really special human. He does. Yeah, I know. He's ageless. Ageless.
Awesome. Well, tell us about your second song tonight.
So the second song is called The Blanket. So to just sort of set the song up, there are two sort of primary characters that we're following through the show. One is Charles, and then the other is a woman named Marilena, who has immigrated to the U.S. From the Dominican Republic, and upon arriving, she was pregnant when she arrived, and then went into labor, and her child was stillborn, and she couldn't speak English very well, and something that happened to a lot of mothers and parents at back in the 80s and for a long period of time is that if they couldn't afford a public burial, they would be given the option to have their child buried, their baby buried on Hart Island. But what they didn't realize, and what they weren't always told, was that they wouldn't be able to visit the gravesite because there are no grave sites. And I remember there were, we watched stories and heard about stories of mothers who for, like 30 years were searching for the burial place of their child. So Maria Elena is in such a situation and predicament, and is desperately trying to find out where her baby is, and can't, which is how she intersects and connects with Charles, who is on the Hart Island burial crew. And during her journey, she is sent a package from her mother back in the Dominican Republic, and obviously is very grief-stricken. And this is the song that sort of follows the reception of this package. And it is sung by Giselle Jimenez and Natasha Diaz, and directed by Raja Fedakali.
So here is the blanket.
Do you remember the story of this blanket?
When Grandmama's belly grew heavy and full, and her child was ready to come, no blanket for baby, no cotton or wool, she had nothing to make blanket from.
So she pulled out the scissors and all of their clothes.
She started cutting, the socks lost their toes.
Then a sleeve and a hand,
there a pleat, there a cuff, until finally Grandma had chopped off enough to make a blanket.
Then she got to stitching before baby arrived, each day sewing that blanket with care. For Grandma believed that a baby would thrive if the blanket was sewn with a prayer.
Lord, let this blanket keep my baby warm. Let it protect her whatever the storm.
Each stitch was a hope, every thread was a dream. Grandma wove in her love through each perfect seam.
She made the blanket.
The baby was born and others soon after. Our houses were filled with gurgles and laughter. Each generation gave birth to another, and the blanket was passed on from mother to mother. And when we have baby, we all gently wrap our sweet little child in this blanket of scrap. Now you have a baby who did not take a breath, no one there who can help you to grieve. This blanket's for baby to protect him in death. You must take to his graveside and leave. Say we are sorry that he did not live not know his mama and all she could give. Let him know that he's loved by his whole family. Let him know he's missed and always will be. Give him the blanket.
This is heartbreaking. Heartbreaking is right.
Yeah, it's an interesting show to be doing at a time where so many folks are dealing with grief, that grief has become a national presence in our lives in a way that hasn't, I don't think that any of us have experienced that. Maybe again during the AIDS crisis would be the closest thing that maybe in our lifetime we could look to and say, grief is just like part of everybody's life, but the lives lost and the suffering from the pandemic is just, it's everywhere. And so the show in many ways speaks to the present moment in that way.
Well, it's really what brings these two characters together ultimately. Hart Island is where they connect, but you come to find out, as Michelle said, Charles was very resistant to the island, and you come to learn that it's because he also suffered the loss of a child, and has not allowed himself to move through the grieving process. And these two learn this about each other and see the humanity in one another, and need each other to begin moving through the process of grief, and are able to do so ultimately.
Yeah, and I think find a way to, as Danny said, move through, and then also move forward as they can, to the best that they can at that time. And I think that that's another component of grief, that you just want to cringe, you want to stay away from grief, but there's so, coming to a place where you can somehow live with it, that you've experienced it and recognized it and journeyed with it, I think is part of it too. And there is a lightness to that. There is a brighter, more positive part of that that's really important too. So our show, we don't want to make it seem like our show is just, agony to watch and really, really only sad and difficult. It also has a lot of light, and it moves to comes to a very light place.
Well, I think all of your shows sort of examine isolation a little bit, but sort of yearn towards connection. And I like that you drew the parallel of sort of the AIDS crisis, and because for me, I feel like it's almost PTSD what we're going through right now. After losing my grandparents to AIDS, my connection to Bill Finn and falsettos and all that. There is a lot of sort of residual triggering elements to that time period that is happening now. This fear of people is I think, a dangerous thing, but it's very real right now.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Anyway, thank you both so much. We can't wait to hear more from Hart Island, and hopefully more from the Yellowwood and all of your other fantastic shows like Cloaked and Maiden Voyage.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Truly, we love you guys, and we're so grateful for all that you're doing to support musical theater writers during this difficult time. It's just, you guys have been one of the bright spots. So thank you.
Yeah. And thank you to NAMT also, and the Village, and, Musical Theater Factory. Shout out to all
everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, this has been an insane time for new work, and I think we're going to keep seeing new work evolve and be more special than ever as we get back to real stages, and it's really exciting.
I think you're right, Jen.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
That was fun. I think it's important to acknowledge some of the people that were behind some of those names that we just heard. So I just want to acknowledge May Ann Teo from Musical Theater Factory, Shakina Nafak, the founding artistic director of Musical Theater Factory, Brandon Ivey from Contemporary Classics, who's now a part of the Village Theater. These
Jerry
are
Dixon, also at the Village Theater.
Absolutely. I said he was Daniel in Once on This Island. He's also the husband of Mario Cantone and an amazing actor and director himself.
Yes. So yeah, what a treasure. Well, that is our show for tonight. We'll be back in 2 weeks on Wednesday, May 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the new musicals, The Bridge and The Loophole. We picked 2 shows with the as the beginning of the title, and we didn't plan it.
That's right. And The Bridge is about the woman behind the Brooklyn Bridge and is written by Peter Hodgson and Kathleen Wrinn. And The Loophole is written by Jay Adana and Zaniba Now. It takes an incredible amount of work to make tonight's show happen. In order to continue to lift up artists and original musicals, we really need your help. So please join our generous donors by making your gift today on our website at nytheaterbarn.org/give. And as we said, you can donate quickly by text at 631-710-NYTV. That's 631-710-6982. Those details also follow below in the video description.
Again, if you didn't get it those 2 times, that link is nytheaterbarn.org/give or 631-710-NYTB. 631-710-6982 are those last 4 digits. Thank you, as always, for tuning in tonight, and thank you for supporting live theater.
We'll see you soon, maybe next week for the Choreography Lab on Wednesday.
Yes, we'll be there. Good night.
Having the support of New York Theater Barn's artistic community has been so nourishing and uplifting, especially now as our brick and mortar theaters remain on hiatus. And I've been so grateful to have a place to gather and share our work.
And I just want to say that New York Theater Barn is very special. It has several different programs that help development of musicals.
They're looking out for theater. They're looking out for new shows. They're looking out for new artists and new creators. That's what we need.
That without places like New York Theater Barn, people like me don't really have the opportunity to workshop our work and don't have an opportunity to make it better.
So it's very important that we are all supporting organizations doing the work that New York Theater Barn is doing right now.
So I hope you are very generous with giving to Theater Barn, and they've been so generous to generations now of writers.
I hope you will give to them this holiday season, and I hope you have a great holiday.